They said it would define his legacy. A $250,000 documentary, backed by major industry names, cameras rolling across London and Los Angeles. Every frame designed to cement Central Cee as the face of UK rap's global takeover. But instead, it did the opposite. What was meant to crown him as the king of his era ended up shattering the illusion that made him powerful in the first place. For years, Central Cee built his brand on mystery. Soft-spoken, emotionally guarded, a rapper who said less and achieved more. Every move was precise, every post calculated, every lyric a glimpse behind a curtain that never truly opened. But then came the documentary, and that curtain was ripped wide open. Suddenly, fans saw things they weren't supposed to see. The polished persona started to crack. There were awkward edits, questionable moments, and confessions that made supporters wonder if Central Cee was really the humble artist he claimed to be, or just another industry product perfectly packaged for the mainstream. Social media turned fast. What began as hype became hesitation. Words like fake, overrated, and manufactured flooded the comments. And for an artist whose entire identity thrived on authenticity, the backlash hit harder than any diss track ever could. So, what went wrong? How did a $250,000 masterpiece become the very thing that exposed the flaws in Central Cee's image? And who was really pulling the strings behind the camera? This isn't just the story of a failed documentary. It's the story of how one film nearly rewrote the legacy of Central Cee forever. Before the world saw him as a global rap superstar, Central Cee was just another young artist grinding through the shadows of West London, a product of the streets, but with a vision that stretched far beyond them. Born Oakley Neil Caesar Sue, Cench wasn't built overnight. He spent years in silence, experimenting with sounds, changing his style, studying the game. When drill was at its peak, all chaos, aggression, and raw street energy, Cench flipped the formula. He made drill personal. Songs like Loading, Commitment Issues, and later Doja didn't just go viral. They made people feel something. His delivery was calm but confident, emotional yet sharp. He wasn't trying to outshine anyone. He was building his own lane. That's what made fans connect to him. He wasn't overexposed. He didn't chase drama. He rarely spoke about his personal life. And when he did, it was through carefully chosen lyrics. That mystery became part of the magic. Every interview was short, every move deliberate. You could tell there was strategy behind the silence. And it worked. Central Cee became the face of a new kind of UK rap, sleek, controlled, and universal. But with fame comes pressure. Labels, cameras, management. Everyone wanted a piece of the story. The image of the quiet, grounded artist was profitable, but it was also fragile. And that's where the idea for a documentary started to form. A $250,000 project designed to show the real Cench. The problem? Sometimes showing the real you means showing what the world isn't ready to see. It all started with good intentions. After the massive success of Doja and his international buzz, Central Cee's management team began talking about how to expand his brand beyond music. They wanted something big, something that would make him more than just a rapper. They wanted a story. The answer? A $250,000 documentary. The vision was clear. Cameras following Cench through the studio, through his city, through his rise. Exclusive interviews with friends, producers, even old clips from before the fame. It was supposed to feel raw, authentic, and emotional. The kind of film that would make fans say, "Now we finally know who he really is." But somewhere in the process, the focus shifted. What started as a personal story turned into a marketing campaign. The directors wanted more drama, the producers wanted more viral moments, and the label wanted more polish. Insiders later claimed that several scenes were reshot, conversations were staged, and even minor conflicts were exaggerated to make things spicier. And that's where everything began to crumble. The documentary no longer reflected the Central Cee fans had built in their minds. Instead of the calm, calculated, mysterious artist, the film painted him as confused, inconsistent, even a bit arrogant in parts. Fans noticed the shift immediately. Comments flooded the internet. "This doesn't feel like Central. He looks uncomfortable. Why does this feel forced?" Behind the camera, the creative team clashed. Some wanted to pull back. Others pushed for even more exposure. In the end, what hit streaming platforms wasn't a celebration. It was a contradiction. And once that contradiction went public, it couldn't be undone. When the documentary finally dropped, the reaction wasn't what anyone expected. The rollout was massive. Teaser clips all over TikTok, YouTube ads, influencers reacting to snippets. For a moment, it looked like Central Cee had done it again. But within hours of release, the tone changed. Viewers flooded the comments with mixed emotions. Some praised the production quality, but others couldn't shake off how off it felt. The pacing, the narration, the way Central came across, it didn't match the man fans had connected with for years. Instead of showing a grounded, humble artist, the documentary showed something colder, almost calculated. He looked distant, awkward in moments that were supposed to feel emotional. There were scenes where he laughed at serious topics, cutaways that felt forced, and moments of arrogance that clashed with his public image. Within days, social media turned into a storm. TikTok edits labeled the film a PR disaster. Reddit threads accused his label of fabricating authenticity. YouTube reviewers said the documentary broke the illusion that Central Cee's mystery was gone forever. And once the media got involved, it snowballed. UK gossip outlets, hip-hop blogs, and reaction channels all started dissecting every frame, questioning his character, his humility, even his relationships. Headlines went from Central Cee's biggest project yet to the documentary that exposed Central Cee. The damage was already done, because once an artist built on mystique loses that sense of mystery, there's no way to rebuild it. The fans didn't just see a documentary, they saw behind the curtain. And what they saw changed everything. For the first time in his career, Central Cee wasn't controlling the narrative. The internet was. In the weeks following the release, the energy around Central Cee shifted dramatically. Streams dropped slightly, engagement dipped, and for the first time, the rapper who used to trend effortlessly started facing public doubt. The same fans who once defended him began dissecting his every move. Interviews that once felt cool and composed now seemed tense. Every quote was taken apart and compared to moments from the documentary. Old tweets resurfaced. Even subtle changes in his body language were turned into viral TikToks. Captions reading, "Central ain't been the same since that doc." Inside the industry, whispers started to spread. Some insiders claimed the label was furious, blaming the film's creative team for turning what should have been a victory lap into a PR nightmare. Others said Central Cee himself regretted agreeing to do it in the first place, feeling like he'd handed over too much control of his story. Behind closed doors, there were reports of canceled appearances, postponed press runs, and a sudden pullback from media engagements. Central Cee went quiet. No statements, no explanations, just silence. But that silence spoke louder than words. Fans noticed how quickly he disappeared from interviews and public events. It was like he was retreating, rebuilding, recalculating. The contrast was striking. An artist once praised for how in control he seemed, now looking like he'd lost control completely. And in an era where perception means everything, Central Cee's greatest strength, his mystique, had become his biggest vulnerability. The documentary didn't just expose his personality, it exposed the machinery behind him, and that changed how people looked at everything. His team, his motives, even his music. After the chaos faded, one question remained. Can Central Cee ever get his image back? For most artists, a bad project or a poorly received documentary might fade with time. But for Central Cee, whose brand was built on control, silence, and mystery, the damage hit deeper. Once fans see behind the mask, it's almost impossible to make them forget what's underneath. But if there's one thing about Central, it's that he adapts. Quietly, strategically. Over the months that followed, he seemed to shift focus. Less talking, more music. The interviews stopped, the social posts slowed, and suddenly, he was back doing what he does best, letting the art speak for him. Tracks like I Will and Band for Band reminded fans why they loved him in the first place. Not for viral clips or staged authenticity, but for lyrics that felt real, relatable, and raw. Gradually, the noise around the documentary started to fade. New headlines took over. And while that $250K film may have cracked his image, it didn't destroy his foundation. If anything, it reminded people that Central Cee isn't perfect. He's human. In an industry obsessed with image, maybe this was the reset he needed. Maybe the fall was part of the evolution. Because sometimes, the greatest comeback stories start right after the world thinks you've fallen off. And as the lights dim on that infamous documentary, one thing is clear: Central Cee's story isn't over. In fact, it might just be getting started. At the end of the day, fame doesn't destroy people. Exposure does. Central Cee's $250,000 documentary was meant to showcase his rise. But instead, it showed how fragile image can be when the spotlight burns too bright. Maybe the film didn't ruin his legacy. Maybe it revealed the price of perfection. Because the truth is, every artist lives in that thin space between who they are and who the world wants them to be. And once that line blurs, even the biggest stars start to fade. But as history's proven, the quiet ones always come back louder than ever. This was the $250K documentary that ruined Central Cee's image. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because more untold stories from the world of hip-hop and fame are coming soon. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the documentary really ruined Central Cee's image? Or was it all part of the plan? Either way, one thing's for sure: the world is still watching.